You know, something I noticed that is very prevalent among my peers is brain rot, right? Like all this nonsensical stuff they're consuming over the internet, like this, like Skibbity, Rizzler, Kai Snap, that new song KSI made.
Yo, yo, yo! Ah! Many songs or so I've been told. From the screen to the ring to the pen to the king.
And I figured that we need more brain nourishment, stuff that's healthy for our minds and helping us grow. So I figured that why not me, as a Gen Z that I guess you could call brain rotted, why not look into philosophy and stuff like that. So today I am here with you guys to react to some philosophy videos on YouTube, specifically the teachings of Friedrich Nietzsche, however the heck you pronounce it. Why him? Why not? Gotta start somewhere. And he just has some teachings that seem interesting to me. I don't know a lot about him. I don't know a lot about anything philosophy based really, other than Stoicism. For a little bit of background, when I was a freshman in high school, which is like 2 or 3 years ago, I got really big into Stoicism and found philosophy interesting, but never really picked it up. I kind of dropped it for a while until now. Here I am. A lot of you knew me in real life when I started this channel when I was in elementary school, just gaming because that's what I was interested in. And I'm fairly young, 17, soon to be 18, and here I am reacting to Friedrich Nietzsche, however the heck you say his name, as a young person that is exposed to all sorts of brain rot and other stuff. Also, on a side note, you guys might be wondering why I haven't uploaded in a while. I've been working on my business, this hammerhead grappling wear right here. I make like fitness and martial arts wear, and I've just been focused on that. School, I'm a high school senior, work, all this other stuff, but I'm back, hopefully. Sorry for the long intro, that's not what y'all are here for. Let's get into it. Alright, so right here on YouTube, I don't know how to spell your name. Alright.
The challenge begins with how to pronounce it.
And also, just FYI, I've never done a reaction video like this before, just so y'all know. I don't own any of these clips. I am just here to react to them. I hope I don't get into any legal trouble or anything. I'm just here to react to these videos.
The challenge begins with how to pronounce his name. The first bit should sound like ni, the second like cha, Nietzsche.
Nietzsche.
Then we need to get past some of his
Friedrich Nietzsche.
extraordinary and provocative statements. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger. God is dead, and we have killed him.
He said
And
that?
his large moustache. But when we do,
That is a nice mustache. But he said what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. Didn't like Lady Gaga or someone say that?
we'll discover a thinker who's
that
intermittently
shows
enchanting,
the
wise, and very
impact
helpful.
Nietzsche has on the modern
Friedrich
world.
Nietzsche was born in 1844 in a quiet village in the eastern part of Germany, where his father was the priest. He did exceptionally well at school and university, and so excelled at ancient Greek that he was made a professor at the University of Basel when still only in his mid-20s.
Dang.
But his official career didn't work out. He got fed up with his fellow academics, gave up his job, and moved to Sils Maria in the Swiss Alps. Didn't get on with his family. I don't like my mother, and it's painful even for me to hear my sister's voice. Women kept rejecting him. His books didn't
real.
sell. And when
He just like me for real. Bro's the OG Sigma. Not Sigma, he's I don't know. He got rejected by women.
He had
The
a
point of
mental
this is to
breakdown,
not brain rot.
precipitated when he saw a horse in a Turin street being beaten by its driver, and ran over to embrace him, shouting, "I understand you." He never recovered and died 11 sad years later.
Dang.
But his philosophy was full of heroism and grandeur. He was a prophet of what he called Selbstüberwindung,
What the?
self-overcoming. The
How the heck you say that?
prophet of what he called Selbstüberwindung, or
Okay, I do not know how to pronounce that at all. But yeah, I know something I know about Nietzsche is that he created whatever this is, and he created the idea of the Übermensch. Shout out to Eisen from Bleach. He taught me what that was. He actually had a lot of influence on the Bleach anime, like kind of off topic from the whole philosophy thing. But yeah, I really like Bleach, and it's the main way I heard of Friedrich Nietzsche. It's because he really influenced that series a lot. But yeah, I know that he makes a lot of complicated words like this in his philosophies and what have you.
self-overcoming. The process by which a great-souled person, what he called an Übermensch, rises above their circumstances and difficulties to embrace whatever life throws at them. He wanted his work to teach us, as he put it, how to become who we really are. His thought centers around 4 main recommendations. 1. Own up to envy. Envy is, Nietzsche recognized, a big part of life. Yet the lingering effects of Christianity generally teach us to feel ashamed of our envious feelings. They seem an indication of evil, so we hide them from ourselves and others. Yet there's nothing wrong with envy, maintained Nietzsche, so long as we use it as a guide to what we really want. Every person who makes us envious should be seen as an indication of what we could one day become. The envy-inducing writer, tycoon, or chef is hinting at who you are capable of one day being. It's not that Nietzsche believed we always end up getting what we want. His own life had taught him this well enough. He simply insisted that we must face up to our true desires, put up a heroic fight to honor them, and...
Bro's kind of chubby, not gonna lie. But, yeah, honestly, kind of a good point. I personally am not an envious person. Like, I'm pretty chill. There's not a lot of stuff I want. It's mainly just, like, mental, internal stuff. I don't want, like, physical, give me this car, give me that, I want this person's success. I just want to become the best version of myself that I can be, that I know I could be, by pushing myself to the absolute limit every day. But I'm not really envious of other people. I get how that could be good fuel, like to see someone doing better than you and it'd be like, oh, I could do that, I can have what he has. And if you use it correctly, he kind of has a point. Like, most people are just like, oh, I'm mad at that person, screw them. But if you're just like, oh, I can get to where they are, like getting rid of that victim mentality that's like so prevalent these days in so many people, that, like, I think that's a big problem in society, is too many people are claiming to be the victim. Me personally, I hate that victim mentality, and I refuse to acknowledge myself as the victim in most situations. But, yeah, I get what he's saying here. I also know that he says some outlandish stuff religion-wise, but most people just get mad because he's criticizing religion, but, like, he doesn't see it as, like, how do I put this? Like what he said about envy, people, like Christians, especially at the time, see that, and they're like, oh, he's denouncing God and my religion and everything. That's not what he's saying. He's saying, like, look inward. Like, think about who you really are and what's causing those feelings and where they could get you. He's not saying you should, like, just blindly follow God and your beliefs, but he's also not saying you should completely reject them.
And only then mourn failure with solemn dignity. That is what it means to be an Übermensch. 2. Don't be a Christian. Nietzsche had some extreme things to say about Christianity. In the entire New Testament, he wrote, there is only one person worth respecting, Pilate, the Roman governor. It was knockabout stuff, but his true target was more subtle and more interesting. He resented Christianity for protecting people from their envy. Christianity had, in Nietzsche's account, emerged in the late Roman Empire, in the minds of timid slaves who'd lacked the stomach to get hold of what they really wanted, and so had clung to a philosophy that made a virtue of their cowardice. He called this Sklavenmoral. Christians, whom he rather rudely termed die Herde, the herd, had wished to enjoy the real ingredients of fulfillment, a position in the world, sex, intellectual mastery, creativity, but they'd been too inept to get them. They'd therefore fashioned a hypocritical creed, denouncing what they wanted but were too weak to fight for, while praising what they didn't want but happened to have. So, in the Christian value system, sexlessness turned into purity, weakness became goodness. Submission to people one hates became obedience. And, in Nietzsche's phrase, not being able to take revenge turned into forgiveness. Christianity amounted to a giant machine for bitter denial. 3. Never drink alcohol.
Okay, I kind of get what he's saying. Like, I guess I was wrong. I guess he really, as it seems, disliked Christianity. But I also know that one of his teachings is that God is dead and we killed him, which isn't, as most people think, like, oh yeah, God is no more. It's him saying, like, that's not a good thing because people are no longer following those morals. I think more so what he's saying is not to just blindly follow everything the Bible says, and like I was saying earlier, to look inward. At least that's how I interpret it. I could be wrong. He could be saying something completely opposite. But he, I lost my train of thought. Hold on. At the time, I don't know how it is now. It's probably different because of the world we live in. But back then, it seemed like the Bible was just like a massive cope for like the weaker people to just like accept what was happening. And now most people think that the Bible teaches acceptance, and I haven't read the Bible, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Like, there were like crusades and like a whole bunch of like fights and stuff over the over people trying to spread Christianity when more powerful people adopted the religion.
Alcohol. Nietzsche himself drank only water, and as a special treat, milk. And he thought
Good
we should
old
do
milk
likewise.
as a special treat every
He
now and
wasn't
then.
making a small eccentric dietary point. The idea went to the heart of his philosophy, as
Sorry, Nietzsche, but I gotta get them protein shakes, and I can't be just drinking water and occasionally milk.
contained in his declaration, there have been two great narcotics in European civilization, Christianity and alcohol. He hated alcohol for the very same reasons that he scorned Christianity, because both numb pain, both reassure us that things are just fine as they are, sapping us of the will to change our lives for the better. A few drinks usher in a transient feeling of satisfaction that can get fatally in the way of taking the steps necessary to improve our lives. Nietzsche was obsessed with the awkward truth that getting really valuable things done hurts.
Yep.
How little you know of human happiness, you comfortable people, he wrote. The secret of a fulfilled life is live dangerously, build your cities on the slopes of Mount Vesuvius. 4. God.
You guys gotta take some risks, people. As I said earlier, I'm Gen Z. I don't drink alcohol. But yeah, life, I do know, could be painful. I know life is painful, and especially when you're working towards stuff. Like when I started this business I was talking about earlier, I had to sacrifice so much. Video games, time with friends, sleep. I had to sacrifice a whole bunch, and I'm still not where I want to be, and I gotta keep working at it. But yeah, it's about either accepting the pain of inaction and not going anywhere and just staying where you are the rest of your life, working a 9 to 5 for someone else, making your company you work for a lot of money, or the pain of action and sacrificing all those vices, I guess. And yeah, it's not just alcohol numbing the pain. It could be video games, it could be drugs, porn, whatever the case may be. Back then they didn't have all that. They mainly had alcohol. That's all there really was to do, was work and go to the bar. But yeah, he's really onto something there. Like, you gotta raw dog the pain of life.
God is dead. Nietzsche's dramatic assertion that God is dead is not, as it's often taken to be, some kind of a celebratory statement. Despite his reservations about Christianity, Nietzsche didn't think that the end of belief was anything to cheer about. Religious beliefs were false, he knew, but he observed that they were very, very beneficial in the sense of helping us cope with the problems of life. Nietzsche felt that the gap left by religion should ideally be filled by culture. He meant philosophy, art, music, literature. Culture should replace scripture. However, Nietzsche was deeply suspicious of the way his own era was handling culture. He believed the universities were killing the humanities, turning them into dry academic exercises, rather than using them for what they were always meant to be, guides to life. He admired the way the Greeks had used tragic drama in a practical, therapeutic way, as an occasion for catharsis and moral education, and wished his own age to be comparably ambitious. He called for a reformation in which people, newly conscious of the crisis brought on by the end of faith, would fill the gaps created by the disappearance of religion with philosophy and art. Every era faces particular psychological challenges, thought Nietzsche, and it's the task of the philosopher to identify and help solve these. For Nietzsche, the 19th century was reeling under the impact of two developments, mass democracy and atheism. The first threatened to unleash torrents of undigested envy, the second to leave humans without guidance or morality. In relation to both challenges, Nietzsche remains our endearing, fascinating, often lovable, and mustachioed guide.
Yeah, this guy was really born in the wrong era. We live in a more, I guess you could say, sophisticated, modern era where people are more free-thinking. And I just realized, is that Nietzsche right there? Lifting that big old, heavy old dumbbell? If so, I retract my earlier statement. This guy might have been yoked. But yeah, me personally, I'm not a Christian, but I'm not atheist either. I believe the term is agnostic. I believe there's a God, but I don't believe in one particular religion. Most people, it seems like atheists and Christians are just at each other's throats constantly. But like, I think there's some kind of middle ground, right? Like every religion has like a guide, basically saying be a good person. And in general, I just think you need to treat your fellow human beings with passion and like be nice to each other, essentially. And almost like Nietzsche said, like he was atheist, but I do think there's a higher power. But him and I would both agree that we should still treat other human beings with kindness, and just because there's no Bible or book telling us we have to treat each other good, we should still do it anyways. Alright. Let's see what else there is. This one has my boy Guts from Berserk. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. Freedom is the will to be responsible to ourselves. Oh snap, I already seen this video before. Man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. What does that mean? Like, honestly, freedom is the will to be responsible to ourselves. So, like, if you're true to who you really are, that's freedom, according to Nietzsche. And I can respect that. But this guy is saying, Jean Rossio, however the heck you say that, I don't know. Everywhere he is in chains. I guess, like, we're free as human beings, but, like, you go to the store, you have to follow that store's rules, or you go to school, you have to follow the rules of your school. I don't know. Comment down below, tell me what this is. What does Jordan Peterson have to say?
My answer has been, well, I act as if God exists. So, well, that's kind of weaselly. It's like, no, it's not, because it gets to the core of this. What do you mean by believe? Well, do you believe in Christ? Well, does that mean you utter the words that he existed? Well, that's a pretty shallow form of belief. In fact, I think that's no form of belief at all. In fact, it says in the New Testament, Christ himself says is something along the lines of, not all those who utter the words, Lord, Lord, will be saved. And Nietzsche's criticism of Christianity, doctrinal Christianity, was basically based on the idea that Christianity had taken the easy route out by insisting upon the statement of faith rather than the embodiment of the belief in action.
Like, that's quite true. Like, most people, I wouldn't say most people, I don't know. A lot of people call themselves Christians and they like go to church and all that, but they don't act very Christ-like. Like, the whole point of Christianity is to be as much like Jesus as possible. But there's a lot of people that aren't like that. And all around, regardless of religious beliefs, I think you should just be a good person and treat your fellow human beings like human beings and not all like rude and disrespectful and stuff. I know it's kind of a shallow thing to say, and Nietzsche's teachings are trying to go deeper than that. But I think that's the underlying point he was trying to make. This one has my boy Johan.
Nietzsche once wrote about Dostoevsky.
I've seen this one too.
Dostoevsky.
What's a stick figure one?
In 1882, a sickly German man penned these words: God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? This is perhaps Nietzsche's best-known contribution to popular culture, though his name has also been used by Nazis, motivational speakers, and edgy teenagers who think that he was a proponent of nihilism for some reason. Nietzsche is as famous as he's misinterpreted, and because of this, it's only natural to provide this, although still embarrassingly reductive guide to the life and philosophy of the man behind the mustache.
The man behind the slaughter? William Afton?
Studies. Nietzsche soon became obsessed with Friedrich Holderlin, a long-dead obscure poet who suffered from
because they got the
schizophrenia
same
and lived
name.
in a tower for 36 years straight.
Dang,
Right.
bro's like the OG 4chan poster. If you're wondering, this is where I post my videos from. That's interesting though, like this philosopher guy Nietzsche looked up to someone that was schizophrenic and isolated himself for 36 years.
Writing poetry about the simple things and playing the piano. He also became friends with another poet and raging drunk Ernst Ortlieb, who would introduce him to the music of Wagner and introduce himself to an early death due to alcoholism.
Imagine just being like super talented that you don't have to give a darn about anything. Like, oh yeah, I'm a raging drunk that's just always drinking alcohol, but I could write some pretty goddamn good poems. Honestly, that's like a lot of modern day rappers. Like modern day poetry is just people who write raps, and instead of alcohol, they pop perk 30s.
Mr. Ortlieb was found in a ditch a mere few weeks after meeting the young Nietzsche.
Oh,
Nietzsche at Basel at the young age of 24 and is still actually on record as the youngest tenured classics professor. Notably, before he moved to Basel, Nietzsche renounced his Prussian citizenship. He would remain entirely stateless for the remainder of his life.
you could
During
do
this
that.
time, Nietzsche also served.
You could just be like, I am no longer a citizen of whatever country, and then like you just don't exist. Like I could just go like live in the ocean or something and be like, yeah, I don't live in the United States anymore. And then just not exist and not have to pay taxes.
Served during the Franco-Prussian War. Scholars believe that his frequent visits to the brothels likely led to him contracting syphilis.
Ooh.
Nietzsche then met Richard Wagner in 1868 and soon developed an absolute man-crush, due largely to their shared...
Where is this guy from? Because I don't think he's German, but like these sound like some German stuff. Like German names and terms and all that. I don't know how to spell this guy. No. Hold on. This is my first time using Google, apparently. Where's Nietzsche from? Rockenlutzen, Germany. I don't know why I said that with a Scottish accent, but now you know. That's where he's from.
Nietzsche was also suffering from poor health at this point. He was nearly
Well, yeah, you
blind,
don't
had
say.
terrible migraines, violent indigestion, broken bones from horse riding, and carried various diseases.
Dang.
Due to this, he resigned from his chair in 1879.
This guy was low-key kind of a unit. Like, you saw him lifting that big old dumbbell. Like, he's a philosopher, but at the same time, like, he was lifting all that weight. He was, like, riding horses and all that.
Diseases. Due to this, he resigned from his chair in 1879. Nietzsche's years of independence were very productive and sound quite nice, really. Living off of his pensions, he would travel to Switzerland in the summer and to Italy and France in the winters. He would begin with Human All Too Human in 1878, and would create a major work each year until 1888.
Dang.
He also met the love of his life, Lou Salome. In fact, he liked her so much he proposed to her 3 times, although Nietzsche never did get a yet.
Bro is not beating the harassment charges with this one. Bro had L Riz for real. L Riz for real.
That's nor really
Wait.
any non-platonic
Whichever one looks
affection.
like an L to you
He did
guys.
stick around, and both he, Salome, and his best friend Paul Ray would tour the countryside looking to...
Guess which one is Nietzsche? Which of these fellas? It's definitely not the one that stands out. No, it's him. It's him. You can't mistake that fire mustache from anywhere.
set up a commune. Nietzsche was eventually abandoned by his friends when his admiration for Salome became far too much to bear. After this, he became hooked on opium and lived in isolation in the
Dang.
mountains, writing Thus Spoke Zarathustra in 10 days. These were very sad and lonely times for Nietzsche. His books weren't selling, and he was unable to obtain a job at a university.
This stuff's crazy. Like, this man was one of the smartest people of his time and was able to come up with, like, all these ideas and thoughts and everything, despite being so hated by society. and we're only like just fairly recently realizing he was onto something. And yet he still struggled with like addiction and like going to brothels and having like weak bones and all this other stuff. But like he has a brilliant mind, but it's crazy to see this more human side of him, of how like he has his weaknesses.
Meanwhile, his sister traveled to Paraguay with her anti-Semitic husband and attempted to establish a new Germany. Nietzsche thought this was very stupid. In the midst of this dark time, Nietzsche found the strength to publish many of his books on his own dime, and he even saw his health improve. However, on January 3rd, Nietzsche reportedly witnessed a horse being flogged in a street corner in Turin, ran to the horse, threw his arms around its neck,
what is up with this image?
And collapsed. This moment, although not
Why does it
entirely
look like
proven
that?
to be something that actually happened, generally marks Nietzsche's gradual decline into madness. After 2 strokes and pneumonia, as well as a plethora of mental issues and disease, Nietzsche passed away in 1900, almost entirely obscure, with very few friends and a sister who would change his life's work to reflect her own agenda.
Dang.
You're probably wondering what sort of philosophy could emerge from a guy who lived such an eccentric and depressing life such as Nietzsche. Well, one of his greatest contributions is his persistent skepticism. Not only did Nietzsche criticize religion and attack previous philosophies, no, his critique launched an attack on the very central aspects of morality, down to the seemingly universal values of good and bad. In Nietzsche's time, morality was no longer attached to religion, but instead was considered to arise from rational thinking and reason.
Most stuff's in like a moral gray
However,
area.
Nietzsche criticized this view, arguing that such rational morals were still deeply entangled.
God, look at this mustache, bro. This looks like that thing Patrick had that one time. This is a killer mustache, not gonna lie.
With religion and historical contingencies. In fact, in the Genealogy of Morality, Nietzsche provides 3 treatises devoted to examining the evolution of central moral ideas. Nietzsche argues that our modern form of good versus bad actually happened due to an ancient slave revolt in morality. The masters or elites believed that they were good due to their nobility or exclusive virtues that could only be obtained by those in certain elite classes, such as courage in an elite military class. The slaves would argue that the causes behind the master's power are evil and that humility is voluntary rather than something the slaves were forced into. Nietzsche writes, "Our morality amounts to a vindictive effort to poison the happiness of the fortunate, instead of a high-minded, dispassionate, and strictly rational concern for others." Hence, Christianity and democracy for Nietzsche are little more than universal extensions of slave morality due to their obsession with freedom and equality. Notably, his reading of morality doesn't make our idea of good versus evil sound all that rational. Instead, democracy is simply seen as the child of Christianity, according to Nietzsche, by
That's
which
interesting.
that is just an extension of slave morality, a morality based...
Isn't the whole thing on democracy, though, that's of the people? And, like, I kind of get what this is saying. Like, it's saying, like, oh, people are good or whatever. But, like, if we all had, like, one ruling, like, king or monarch or anything, wouldn't that be similar to slave morality? Like, us literally all serving, like, one big power instead of having, like, a whole, like, we choose the leader and there's, like, checks and balances and all that?
Based upon the erosion of power through jealously taking down the powerful. Here, the rise in European materialism, the popularity of secularism, and the advancement of the
Sound a lot like today, not gonna lie. I guess history really do repeat itself.
sciences, including the theory of evolution, led to Nietzsche's harrowing conclusion. Because the belief in the Christian God has become unbelievable, everything that was built upon this faith, propped up by it, grown into it, including the whole of our European morality, is destined for collapse. God's death then welcomes an era without values. Everything that was thought to be sacred
God
and
was
eternal
born in
is now seen
1977.
merely mortal and arbitrary. Nietzsche believed that the death of God will lead to the loss of a universal perspective and truth, and subsequently, nihilism. Most people focus on this aspect of Nietzsche's argument, claiming that he is a nihilist or advocate of nihilism. However, here is what he has to say about nihilists. A nihilist is a man who judges that the real world ought not to be, and that the world as it ought to be does not exist. According to this view, our existence, action, suffering, willing, feeling, has no meaning. This, in vain, is the nihilist's pathos, an inconsistency on the part of the nihilists. This inconsistency is the fact that the nihilist is still willing or wishing or valuing something, even if that something is nothingness. Beyond this error, Nietzsche also doesn't really think this nothingness is something worthwhile. For him, what makes the
Facts,
human
my brother.
species amazing is not what we believe
Facts, my brother. Spit your stuff indeed.
in or value, but that we can value to begin with. Nihilism is the greatest crisis we face, and hence requires the greatest of values to recover.
Y'all think Nietzsche would have liked Fortnite? Like, if there was Fortnite back in his day, what would his opinion on it be? I'm legit deep in thought here, like, not over his actual ideology, mind you, just what he would think of Fortnite. I guess it's kind of like alcohol, that people resort to it to numb pain, just like video games in general. I don't know. Let's go back to the video.
From a utilitarian man.
I gotta buy some of these
Utilitarian man
books.
spends his days maximizing pleasures and minimizing pain, something that we can now probably call the modern lifestyle.
Hey, that's what I was talking
However,
about.
Nietzsche points to the fact that pain is usually required if one is to do anything worthwhile.
Yep.
He believes we'll suffer either way in life. We can either let life make us suffer, or we can make our suffering, channeling it into something we find purpose in. For him, the hedonistic man is a pathetic man who is simply content and nothing more. Sure, it's a solution to nihilism, but not one that Nietzsche is really all that a fan of.
Yep, like I was saying earlier. It's gonna suck either way. At least make it suck in a way that matters to you.
Here is Nietzsche's solution to nihilism, the Übermensch, or Overman. He believes that the Overman will be the
I thought it
next
was
stage
Superman.
of evolution and will be the
I thought Ubermensch didn't mean overman, it meant Superman. I don't know. Languages are weird.
creator of new values that we cannot even imagine. The Overman shall be the meaning of the earth. Man is a rope tied between beast and Overman.
Yeah, see, look,
A
they
rope
literally got
over an
Superman
abyss.
right here.
What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not an end. Now, this is kind of extreme and not entirely useful for those who are suffering from hopelessness and nihilism. How can you deal with life suffering now, without relying on becoming the next stage in human evolution? Nietzsche, who personally struggled with depression and nihilism, had much to say about living life to the fullest, even in the face of meaninglessness. Firstly, he suggested to love our fate. He writes, "I want to learn more and more to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. Then I shall be one of those who makes things beautiful. Amor fati. Let that be my love henceforth. And all in all, and on the whole, someday I wish to be only a yes-sayer." Here he develops the eternal return to guide us in how we both live and reflect on our life. A thought experiment in which we imagine that everything we experience, good or bad, is to be repeated for infinity. A life lived well, for Nietzsche, is one where we embrace all aspects of our life. Why? Because this idea ultimately
Interesting.
leads to Nietzsche's most inspirational solution to nihilism, becoming oneself. As John Kaag writes, the self does not lie passively and wait for us to discover it. Selfhood is made in the active ongoing process. The enduring nature of being human is to turn into something else. Nietzsche believes that life should be an exciting adventure of self-discovery and self-creation, where we constantly learn and unlearn who we are, losing and finding ourselves at every turn. This is a good start, especially for those hung up on where to go or what to do. Do something and go somewhere. See what happens. Cry, laugh, suffer, and grow. Nihilism doesn't have much an answer for the individual who finds their life worthwhile. In a sense, becoming
It's crazy that this, like, deep philosophy that, like, this guy who lived his whole life, like, just thinking about existence, and ultimately it boils down to be kind to other people and just be yourself. And it's really as simple as that. But at the same time, it's, like, not simple because you have to, like, really look inward and see what everything's about. But I believe that will do it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, definitely leave a like and comment. Let me know which either philosophers or beliefs I should look into next time, because definitely down to hear what you guys think. I got a couple other ideas in mind, but yeah, that was my take on Nietzsche. We may return to him in the future or mention him again. But yeah, leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out.